Ryan Bergert delivered in a big way tonight as the Royals take the series in Chicago. We'll dive into it next on Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned into a Wednesday edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. That is at JOHNYJ_15. You also can catch us on wherever you listen to podcasts. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. For you first-time listeners wondering how this channel works, I bring you episodes Monday through Friday, 30-minute episodes in length, and you can check out the Locked On Royals postcast, which is hosted by Chance Lebo, and he goes to you live for about 15 to 20 minutes at the conclusion of each and every game. Before we get started, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off on your first purchase. Well, it's good news for the Royals tonight as they dominate the White Sox in the series finale. Didn't look that promising through the first 4 to 5 innings, but if last night told us anything, it was that patience was key in watching this Royals and White Sox finale. Not just for the series, but for the season. This was the season series finale against the White Sox. The Royals finished 10-3 against them in 2025. And if you were to go back to the beginning of last year, Kansas City is 22-4 in 26 meetings against Chicago. Just pure and utter domination. And to cap it off with this type of game, where you're down 1-0, you have one hit through 4 innings, you're a little bit frustrated because what Aaron Civale is throwing is not dominating whatsoever. We talk about the Royals' domination. What Civale was throwing was not that impressive. The Royals were just not squaring him up in the same way they were not squaring up Martin Perez. But then that 5th inning happened, and the Royals hung an 8 spot, and the game was over. Really, the game was over, in my opinion, when Vinnie Pasquantino had the 2-run single. We'll talk about him in the second segment tonight. But this was a type of game that, we see so often in baseball. When you've got a team, whether they're great or bad, they blow the game the night before, right? The White Sox did just that. They were up 4-0 going into the 8th inning, and they coughed up that game, gave up 5 runs in the last 2 innings. And even though they led 1-0 through 4 innings tonight, it's a game where you're just going to be on fumes. You're not as mentally locked in. You're not as confident as you were going into Tuesday's game. And because of that blown 4-run lead, I believe it directly impacted how the White Sox played tonight in their 12-1 defeat, having to use Corey Lee, a position player, in the last 2 innings of tonight's game. It was great for the Royals, but we see this so often, right, where one team storms back and they just carry that momentum into the next day. And as we said in yesterday's podcast, that you are only as good as your next day's starter. And Ryan Bergert was pretty dang good tonight. And he's been so impressive since coming over from San Diego. And I want to say that the best part about Ryan Bergert since coming over to Kansas City is he's limited the walks. His command has been much better, and it's allowed him to work deeper into the game. And tonight was the first time in his career he was able to work 6 innings. And I go back to so many starts for Ryan Bergert since joining Kansas City. And maybe I shouldn't say so many starts. It's only been a handful. But he's been pulled before getting that final out of the 6th inning. And it's been because the offense hasn't given him any runs of support. He's been leaving the game with a tie game, or they're down by 1, or they're up by 1. And you just can't play with fire that much. If Bergert was struggling in the 6th inning before, he didn't have that luxury to say, well, just let him pitch through it. Tonight, they were able to do that. Because when Ryan Bergert took them out in the 6th inning, the Royals had a 10-run cushion. So you absolutely can have a longer leash there. And I was so hoping that that was going to be tonight's game, that Ryan Bergert could save the bullpen a little bit and the offense could give him a ton of cushion to work with. And that's the perfect night to do it. You have an off day tomorrow. You got a bad team that you're facing for the final time. Beat up on them. And I even said this yesterday too. I know I'm referring a lot to last night's episode, but if the Royals would have lost last night, I don't think tonight's game with the same outcome would have made me feel better about this series, because you would have lost both series in Chicago this year against the White Sox. But since you won, this is exactly how you wanted the finale to go. Ryan Bergert to pitch well. Again, since coming over to Kansas City, he has not allowed more than 2 runs in any start for the Royals. And he has worked at least 5 1/3 in every single one of those outings. They are getting more length out of him. They are getting better command. And tonight, with the exception of the Andrew Benintendi home run, he delivered. And, I put Big Game Bergert as the title of the first segment here. I understand that he's not pitching in a playoff game. He's not pitching against a great lineup. He has faced some great lineups since coming over from San Diego. But tonight, to me, counts as a big game. Because as great as last night's was, it did not mean anything if the Royals didn't win tonight. If Ryan Bergert would have gone out there and just had his C- stuff and the Royals would lose 6-3, last night's comeback is already forgotten about. And that's the tricky thing about baseball. When we want to completely buy in to a great win, or we want to completely overreact to a bad loss, we always have to come back to the same point. It really only matters for that day. It's done and over with by tomorrow. As great as this win was, and as great as Ryan Bergert was, you turn the page. Tomorrow's an off day, and then you're already on to the next series against the Detroit Tigers, which we'll talk about in tomorrow's episode. But I would say that was delivering in a big way for his team. Not just to go 6 innings, throw a quality start, and make sure that the White Sox had no chance of crawling back into that game. I mean, it was 8-1 at one point, but still, he had to go back out there and make sure that they didn't notch 3 runs or get 4 runs in that inning, and now it's a save situation. You don't want that from a starter that gets too comfortable with a big lead. The fact he did that, he was able to save the bullpen, and they have the off day tomorrow. With as gassed as this relief corps has been, you did not want to see them only get 4 innings out of Bergert tonight, and you're having to just scratch and claw to get the final 15 to 18 outs of that ball game. You wanted to have this type of outburst from the offense. You wanted to get a successful outing from Bergert, and they were able to do that. And now they can have a happy flight back to Kansas City. It's a 9-game homestand. They should have great weather over the weekend. They've got a first-place Tigers team they just saw. They will see Tarek Skubal on Sunday, but they get Chris Paddock and Jack Flaherty for the first 2 games of the series. Flaherty, they bombed in the series finale in Detroit last weekend. And Chris Paddock, somebody they're probably pretty thrilled to get to see a second time in a week. Now, for the Royals, which I will touch on a little bit in tomorrow's episode, they have a TBD as their starter for Saturday. That's Noah Cameron's, scheduled start. But I almost wonder if they are going to be a little bit more creative with that game. It's a nationally televised game, but Noah Cameron has thrown over 100 innings. You can probably expect him to, maybe wind down a little bit. You can't expect him to throw 6-7 innings every single time out. He might be feeling that fatigue a little bit. Stephen Kolek, it was pointed out to me by a follower on Twitter, and I do want to make sure that I give some credit here because this was not my doing. I did not find this out when I was scrolling through social media. I wasn't paying attention to the Omaha game, full transparency for tonight. But this was sent to me by KCR fan on Twitter that Stephen Kolek was pulled after 1 inning tonight. I don't know if that's injury related or if that's because he would come up and maybe be an opener for Noah Cameron on Saturday. We'll see, though. Maybe they just go with Noah Cameron anyway, and they try to find a way to bring up another starter that has some length. The Royals will need to get very creative, though, about how they want to handle some of these guys that are, far over their career high in innings pitched. As for Ryan Bergert, it's his rookie year as well. The good news is he was out of the bullpen to begin the year, so he's not really dealing with that inning workload. So you can expect him to still be giving you this for the last month of the season, because the next time he throws will be next week against the Angels. He's kind of become one of those guys that I've just counted on to give you 5 to 6 innings of 2-run ball or less. And that's been such a great addition for a rotation that was throwing Rich Hill out there at some point. And to know that that was really their headliner deal of the trade deadline, getting Ryan Bergert and Stephen Kolek for Freddie Fermin, it's been maybe I'll go a B plus to it. I don't want to say an A plus because Stephen Kolek hasn't pitched well in Omaha. Freddie Fermin is coming back down to earth a little bit for the Padres, but how Ryan Bergert has looked, it's hard not to be thrilled about that because he's still got multiple years of control, and he's probably slotted into the rotation already for 2026. Let's take our first break of the show. When we come back, I've been wanting to talk about this for the last 2 days. I unfortunately, due to work, have had to do late night episodes, which usually just means recapping the game that just happened. But I want to talk about Vinnie Pasquantino, the tear that he's been on, and really what it means for the Royals' future. That's coming up next on Locked On Royals. You are tuning to Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can catch us on wherever you listen to your podcast. Before we go any further, I want to tell you about the title sponsor of tonight's show, and that is Gametime. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live, the energy, the crowd, and the chance to see your team in person. But actually getting the tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees, it takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives you the advantage back to the fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off on your first purchase. Those terms apply. So again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, and download the Gametime app today. Also want to tell you about FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And for one of my bets going into this week, I'm going to look at the game tomorrow night at Arrowhead Stadium, Nebraska and Cincinnati. I expect there to be a ton of Nebraska fans there. They always travel well, and there's also a ton of Cornhusker fans in Kansas City. I will take Nebraska and the points tomorrow. I'm not too low on Cincinnati, but I just feel a Nebraska team that probably will get somewhere between 8 and 10 wins this year. Shouldn't really have too much of a problem with the Bearcats tomorrow. Arrowhead, home game for them basically, so I will take Nebraska to cover that spread against Cincinnati. This is a topic that I've been wanting to talk about now for the last couple of days, and it involves one of the stars of this Royals team and really a star over the last couple of years. And we last discussed it when we were going over players worthy of a contract extension. And Vinnie Pasquantino is one of those guys. And I want to say that he has the best chance of getting that extension, and I still fully believe in that. I mean, I really feel that he is one of those types of players that, you know, when you get this type of production, you can't really take it for granted. He is not the best first baseman in baseball, but he is somebody that is going to be a run producer. Now he is finally showing that he's got 30 home run potential. He can handle first base over there. He is the most vibrant player in terms of post-game interviews, and he's got the nickname, the Pasquatch. They've got the Sasquatch out over the Hall of Fame in left field. He's very marketable. Those players, you don't just let play on their rookie contract for the entirety. You know, that you have to find a way at some point to honor the type of player that they've been, the numbers they put up, and that's what the Royals have really shown over the last couple of years. It's not to be reckless or foolish with it. I thought they were reckless and foolish with Hunter Dozier's contract. That was a guy that was around Vinnie Pasquantino's age, but he had never put up a great season until 2019. And in 2019, Hunter Dozier put up the numbers. They gave him a 4-year deal, and everybody went, okay. I mean, he was great last year, but that's a lot of money for a guy that really doesn't have a position and has only done this once. Vinny, though, has been able to do it pretty much every single year of his big league career. This one absolutely has been the career year. He's already at 131 games. That's what he totaled last year. And he had 19 home runs last year, 97 driven in. He would have had probably close to 115 RBIs, in my opinion, if he didn't have that broken thumb in Houston. He came back for the postseason. That's another part that adds to this. A guy that worked his tail off to get back and play for this team in the postseason. Very few guys could come back from that injury in a short amount of time. This year, though, in 131 games, he's got 28 RBIs. Tonight, he drove in 2 more, so he's at 94 on the season. He should be able to get that maybe close to 100 or maybe close to 30 with an entire month left to play. You don't take those numbers for granted. His OPS plus, going back to 2022, he had a 135 OPS plus in his rookie season, 106 the year he got hurt in 2023, 114 last year, 120 this year. All above league average and really not hovering around league average. He has been a well above average hitter. He's tapped into the power. He's kind of become one of the faces of this team. I believe he is due for that contract extension. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they get it done this offseason because these are numbers that I think you can absolutely stand by. And this run that he had been on, I know it's a little bit late because he was on that stretch where he had 6 home runs in 7 games to catapult him all the way up to nearly 30 home runs. This is what the Royals have been missing since, Eric Hosmer left. And Eric Hosmer even was not that 30 to 40 home run type of guy. I mean, there's a chance that Vinny gets close to maybe 40. I mean, he hit 6 home runs in a week. If he does that at any point, I mean, he might get close to 36, 37, 38 home runs. And then you compare that to the rest of first basemen in all of baseball. He's up there. And people for so long had talked about, well, Vinny is a top 10 first baseman, but the numbers just weren't quite there. He's not an elite defender, so his WAR gets hurt a little bit by that. But when I look at a first baseman, I'm not really over concerned with the defense. I don't want you to be a liability over there. But when you've got numbers like this, I mean, 22 doubles on the season, 28 home runs. He's only struck out 88 times. He's OPSing just south of 800. These are all consistent and great numbers. And I want to say that before the winter meetings, you can go out there and get that extension. I mean, he's 28 years old, I believe. I want to say he's about to turn 28. He'll do that in October. I don't think there's anything wrong with a 3 to 4 year deal and give him a pay increase from what he's already making for the Royals. I mean, he's arbitration eligible in 2026. He's got the years of control until 2029. You don't want him, though, just to play out the rest of those years because you want him to be a long-term player for this team. I believe the numbers are there. And everybody, and I'm still going to knock on wood here. Don't worry. I don't want to screw up the mic here that's in front of me, but I am knocking on wood. He has been able to show this year not only the overall production, but really being a sure-handed player in that lineup outside of the first month of the season when he really struggled. And that's another part to this because the last 2 years, he has struggled right out of the gates. It's just been something that you've become accustomed to. But I also believe that plays into the consistent part. Oh, yeah, he may struggle for a month, but then by the end of the year, he's a 35 to 40 home run guy. And then I start thinking to myself, what if he just has a good start to the season? He dealt with that hamstring injury coming out of camp, so maybe that slowed him down a little bit. But is he someone that can be a 40 to 45 home run hitter if he doesn't start the season really, really, hovering around the Mendoza line and really struggling? That's certainly something that can be a discussion for another day. But the more I watch him play, the more I'm just confident in him coming through in some big spots. He has not been the same type of clutch hitter, with runners in scoring position this year, but he has been a more powerful hitter, a more well-rounded hitter, and continues to be one of the faces of this core. And I believe he is absolutely deserving of an extension this offseason. We'll take our final break of the show. When we come back, this guy's not deserving of an extension, but I do want to give some praise to a player that we just don't talk about a lot on this podcast. It is Kyle Isbel, and I just think that he continues to impress in 2025. We'll dive into his numbers next on Locked On Royals. We are back on Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can listen to us on wherever you catch your podcast. Two more things I want to let you know about before we move on to our Kyle Isbel segment. And we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you, and we've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners. Make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. And as always, thank you for helping us out. Also want to tell you about Upside. Hey, Locked On Royals fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind and get real cash back every time you fill up the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or the Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code SEASON and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas that you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code SEASON for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code SEASON. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. We just talked about Vinnie Pasquantino, and let's end the night talking about Kyle Isbel and really how impressed that I've been over the course of the 2025 season. The numbers are a lot better, honestly, than I thought they were. And last year, if you just were looking at the surface level numbers, he hit 229, he had a 287 OBP, a slug at 367. I mean, he's got an OPS at 654. He only had 8 home runs, drove in 42. And this year, he's only got 4 home runs. So he's got 4 less, and he's got 11 less RBIs on the season. He's also stolen 7 less bases. He's only at 4. He's been caught stealing 4 times, by the way. So he's got a 50% success rate on the bases this year. He's walked 7 less times, and he struck out 20 less times. But yet, he has a batting average that is 36 points higher than it was a year ago. He's got an on-base that is north of 300, and I always felt that was the key for Kyle Isbel. Man, if he could be a 9-hole hitter that's got an on-base percentage that is just north of 300, he can be that league average bat that we talked about. You are looking at a valuable center fielder. And he's not going to be one of the best out there. He's got a 1.6 WAR, so that's just two points off where he was last year. He had a full 2 WAR season in 2023, and I believe that's just his best defensive season in the big leagues. But he's also been really good this year in terms of outs above average. But, we've looked at center fielders, and we've thought about if Kyle Isbel is the answer, if he's the guy that can ever be a league average bat. And quite frankly, you had every right to be critical of the Royals' plans of making him the everyday center fielder going into 2025, because he was one of those issues. He was one of those problems for the Royals at the end of 2024. He had some moments. He had some times where he came through. He had a big hit or 2, but for the most part, you just can't run a 220 hitter out there in center field every single day. It's too valuable of a position. But this year, to hit 265, to play the defense that he's played, to be around a league average bat, it would have been hard for the Royals to find that elsewhere. And credit to the Royals that they stuck with him, and they felt that this type of year was possible for him. It's why they ran him out there in 2023. They ran him out there in 24, and they've run him out here in 2025. Is he their center fielder in 2026? I've got no reason to believe otherwise. And with the way that he continues to just stay the course this year, you never really see his average fluctuate below 260, never really goes above 270. He just hovers around the 260s, quite honestly. Plays a really good defense. I know that every time a ball was hit out there, I've got that confidence that he's going to bring it down. And that's valuable to have too. The third or fourth time we've brought up the word valuable. And that's what I believe Kyle Isbel is for what is expected out of him. He hits ninth for this lineup. And he can play all three outfield spots, though you want him to be in center field more often than not. And yes, you could go out in free agency. You could go out and in the trade route, try to find you a center fielder that's better than a 91 OPS plus, but also you just can't take that for granted. I always, thought that he was more of a fourth outfielder, that you just didn't want to play him every day. He was always going to get overexposed and lefties were going to be able to exploit him, and they still do. When he does face a lefty, he's not been very productive this year, and he certainly wasn't last year. But as more of a platoon bat, it's why I want to say the numbers have been better this year. He's just seen more righties out there, and then against lefties, the Royals get a little bit more creative. They go with their platoon-heavy lineup against left-handed arms. And maybe that will be the goal for 2026, where against right-handed pitchers, Kyle Isbel is your starting center fielder, and he's hitting ninth. That's just what they want to do. But maybe in free agency or the trade route, as we brought up, you go out there and find a more sure-handed center fielder from the right side. Yeah, Tyler Tolbert's fine. We have seen Dairon Blanco play out there. Yes, Nick Lofton could play a little bit of center field, but that's not really sure-handed in my opinion. If you want to make that center field spot really sparkle, in my opinion, Kyle Isbel can be that guy against right-handed pitching next year, and you got to find somebody that can be good enough defensively, but also a legitimate threat from the right side. I believe that's how you get the best out of Kyle Isbel and the best out of whoever you may be targeting. I just want to say, though, that he's been one of the main reasons why this offense has been able to improve little by little. And even when the Royals were struggling mightily, he wasn't one of those guys that I thought was, the culprit. I did not think that he was one of the guys that deserved a ton of blame. I was more so looking at the players that you were expecting to drive the bus. And Kyle Isbel is never one of those guys that I expect to drive the bus, but he's done a much better job this year at putting bat to ball and driving in runs or moving runners over. And we know how talented he is at laying down the bunt. I mean, that little part to his game is incredibly important for this offense. They can have that little bit of a small ball approach, and with a runner at third, other teams now have taken notice where you got to bring the infield in because he just seems to get it down every single time. And when you add that with the defense, you add that with the speed a little bit, he has turned himself into a fine baseball player. And I really didn't think that was possible going back to 2023. I just viewed him as that great defensive center fielder that was never going to be able to hit enough. And that's fine, because I just didn't have that same level of expectation that J.J. Picollo in the front office did. But even in that 2023 year, they called the evaluation year. And I know John Sherman didn't like that term, but they wanted to evaluate Bobby Witt Jr., they wanted to evaluate that pitching staff, and Kyle Isbel was the other name they brought up, if he could be an everyday center fielder. And they clearly liked it enough where he could be the guy 2024, 2025, and maybe beyond that. But he's turning in a career year. He's been very reliable in the 9-hole, and tonight and last night, he's just been somebody that I'm starting to have more and more confidence every time he comes up to the plate. Not as much confidence, of course, as Vinnie with runners in scoring position. But last year, year before that, I did not want Kyle Isbel up at the plate in a big moment. This year, I'm more okay with it. All right, that's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I have been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale and find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Tomorrow, we might be with Chance Lebo, or we might just do the show ourselves, but we'll talk about the Detroit Tigers series, going to talk about Seth Lugo's issues, and maybe what they want to do with that starting spot on Saturday. But until tomorrow, you take it easy, Kansas City.